Best cash management services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards. Good evening. On Your Money Show tonight, we'll get Shamil Jusub's no comment as both Vodacom and Nkosana Makata refuse to reveal the final Please Call Me payout. The A2X CEO Kevin Brady on his Competition Commission victory over the JSE. The Omnia CEO on their earnings uptick. Dr. Rezimir will tell you about his career as an aesthetic surgeon and his passion for aeronautics. And Dion Chang and why the pet economy is wagging its tail and purring at the same time. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. Shocking allegations of a 2022 murder and a subsequent cover-up by acting Ekurhuleni Metro Police Head Julius Mkhwanazi have emerged before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Testifying at the commission today, former EMPD Deputy Commissioner Rivo Spies highlighted serious criminal cases against Mkhwanazi and several EMPD officers who were previously under his command. According to Spies, Mkhwanazi previously led the now disbanded SWAT unit at EMPD, who were involved in at least 5 criminal matters related to murder, theft and corruption. Oren Singh has more.
Former EMPD Deputy Commissioner Rivo Spies claims that in April 2022, members of EMPD murdered someone in Brakpan during interrogation. The EMPD officers were allegedly attached to a disbanded unit known as the SWAT team, who fell under the management of now acting EMPD Chief Julius Mkhwanazi.
They tortured this person where they used a method called tubing, which is a piece of rubber that you pull over a person's face and you suffocate the person. Then the next moment, this person, they killed him.
He alleges that Mkhwanazi was called to the scene.
Brigadier Mkhwanazi arrived on the scene in a white Golf, and he then proceeded to direct them how to clean the scene.
Spies claims the victim's body was loaded onto the back of a civilian's bakkie and dumped into a river where SAPS later retrieved the body. Oren Singh, Eyewitness News.
A survey by the Basic Education Department has revealed that 70% of children from grade 1 to 3 cannot recognize letters or read words quickly enough to understand them. The revelation is contained in the Fundo Phumelele National Survey, a first-of-its-kind document compiling early grade reading outcomes across all official languages in the first 3 grades. Minister Siviwe Kwagube launched the study today in Pretoria, saying there needs to be a new focus on early learning and comprehension. Jabuli Lembata has more.
For the past 7 years, the department has been working on creating a reading benchmark in all 11 official languages. This is to mark specific reading skills that children need to get to by the end of grade 1, 2 and 3 in order to be on track with comprehension by the time they reach grade 4. Speaking at the launch, the department's director for reading, Nompumelelo Nyati Muhohlwane, says only 3 out of 10 learners in grade 1 to 3 can read at the level expected for their age.
We want to clarify key milestones in early reading development. We want to enable early identification of children at risk. We want to support timely and targeted remediation. We want to have teachers guide differentiated instruction, and we also want to measure progress towards system goals.
She adds why this study exists. She adds that by grade 4, only 46% of learners reach their grade 3 language benchmark. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News.
Supporters of arrested Zimbabwean politician Job Sikhala have questioned how he ended up with explosives in his vehicle, alleging they may have been deliberately planted. The former Citizens Coalition for Change MP appeared before the Pretoria Magistrates Court today following his arrest last week for carrying explosives in his car while driving in the capital. Police say the arrest happened after a tip-off on a suspicious vehicle. Alfara Mushana has more.
The NPA has emphasized that it would never pursue a case unless there is sufficient evidence to secure a successful conviction. However, some Zimbabwean activists are calling on the organization to review the charges against former MP Job Sikhala, arguing that they do not believe the explosives found were his. Trust Ndlovu, one of Sikhala's supporters, says several aspects of Sikhala's case appear suspicious.
So obviously there is a foul play. As you know, the man is a high-profile political activist back in Zimbabwe. So obviously there are enemies of democracy, enemies of justice.
Sikhala will return to court on Wednesday for a formal bail application. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
And Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is set to deliver the medium-term budget policy statement in Parliament this week, a little more than 3 months since the country's main budget was passed after 2 false starts. With lessons learned from that process, less contestation is expected this time around as the Finance Minister sets out to update revenue and expenditure estimates and to top up funds where necessary. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Given the protracted process around the main budget, which included a legal challenge over a proposed value-added tax increase, Minister Enoch Godongwana is tabling the midterm budget a little later than is customary. On Wednesday, he will table the Adjustments Appropriation Bill along with several other bills on rates and taxation. Parliamentary spokesperson Moloto Matapo says the tabling of the mini-budget plays a critical role in the overall budget process, setting out the policy framework for the main budget.
It also provides the country and its elected representatives with an update on the National Treasury's economic forecast, adjust the budgets of government departments and makes emergency changes to spending.
But the National Assembly won't finish the process before the end of the year, once again setting an uncustomary date in January to finalise the budget, just a month before the 2026 national budget is due to be tabled. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Gold's trading at $4,082.69 an ounce. The rand's at 17.17 to the dollar, at 22.59 to the pound, at 19.83 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $63.75 a barrel.
In your sport, one last chance to impress as Hugo Broos gears up to name his Bafana Bafana squad for AFCON. Quentin Fortune lands Serbia job, and Luet Diaga set to face disciplinary hearing on Tuesday for foul play.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng with afternoon scattered thunder showers expected tomorrow. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 22. Pretoria is at 16 and 24. Vereeniging also dropping to lows of 16, reaching highs of 24 degrees. A foggy morning for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies with moderate northwesterly winds at a low of 16 and a high of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour: shocking allegations of a 2022 murder and a subsequent cover-up by acting Ekurhuleni Metro Police head Julius Mkhwanazi have emerged before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
On the N1 South at Malibongwe Drive, there's a crash that's in the right lane. And if you're on the N12 West, be on the lookout for a stationary vehicle that's from the R24 West. On the N1 North, there's a stationary vehicle that's in the right lane. It's after Allendale Road. And on the N1 Pretoria Main Road North, there's an incident at Brackfontein Interchange and 2 lanes are obstructed. And in Cape Town, on Hospital Bend incoming, there's a vehicle broken down and that's in the right lane. So please be on the lookout for that if you're heading into town. More Eyewitness News traffic at 6:30.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards. Good evening, welcome to the program. I'm Stephen Grootes, 8 minutes after 6 tonight. Still so much focus on the big question. How much did Nkosana Makate get? And I notice that all the people involved are simply not saying. There's a lot of guesswork out there at the moment, and Shamil Yusuf is not saying. We'll ask him, we'll get his no comment on the record in a couple of moments. He's the CEO at Vodacom. I notice there's also big stories about how much of it he'll actually keep, and that's not a tax question. That's who does he owe money to? And this, we made the point last week, the Please Call Me case has probably racked up more in legal fees for one individual than any other case in South African history, former presidents included. And it does seem to me that there'll be a lot of disputes and arguments. So I had thought maybe Makate would get on his horse and ride off into the sunset. But I think perhaps for various reasons, the fighting isn't quite done yet. And still maybe going to be quite tough for him. Well, let's see. I'm sure we will hear about it. I will speak to Shamil Yusuf in just a moment. And it's an astonishing story about the JSE. The Competition Commission saying they believe the JSE has been anti-competitive in trying to stop business for A2X, which is a competitor of the JSE. the JSE, I must just say, strongly, and I mean in the strongest terms, denies that. It's about the interoperability of systems, is my understanding. We'll speak to Kevin Brady, the CEO at A2X, in about 10 minutes' time. Stephen Grootes is the CEO at Omnia. Their revenue was up, their operating profit was up. Quite a lot going on in mining and agriculture. We'll talk to him about that at Omnia. And then lots of speculation around what's going to happen in the medium-term budget policy statement on Wednesday. I'm not a betting person at all, but I would suspect I'd put a little bit of money on a lower inflation target. Time just to sort of make what's already happening, to make de facto de jure, if I can pull it like that. What's happening, in fact, actual law. Because we know this is what the Reserve Bank is aiming for anyway. So it's time to just kind of make sense of it. Otherwise, it looks a little bit silly. Looking forward to that conversation just before 7 o'clock.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, the World Bank now giving a loan to South Africa of about 16 billion rand. It's to spend specifically on cities. If you look around your city, I suppose the question is, where would you spend the money? I mean, for me, there are three obvious things. The first is water. I mean, I think water's got to be, and the provision of water and all of the pipes and the holes in the ground and the leaks and the dry taps and all of those problems. That surely has got to be the first one. The second is probably electricity. Now, I could tie for second with potholes where I live. But I think probably electricity, because living without electricity, as we know, is just awful. And then potholes after that. But I'd like to know your top three. If the cities get this money, where do they need to start spending it? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and voice notes on 072 702 1702. And I mean, just refurbishing the council headquarters in Joburg is probably going to take a couple of billion, but I wouldn't spend it on that, let me just say.
702. Stephen is on X
at Stephen Grootes.
Well, Vodacom reporting today its headline earnings as a group were up by nearly 33%, being driven by big increases in financial services revenue and service revenue, although their South African service revenue was up by only 2.2%. But I suppose all of that really overshadowed by the fact that Vodacom have still not said how much they had to pay out in Nkosana Makate after confirmation last week. They'd finally reached an agreement in the Please Call Me case. Shamil Jusub is the CEO at the Vodacom Group. Shamil, good evening. The Makate case, you're not going to tell me how much, are you?
No.
Well, I'm glad we got that out the way. Is the market speculation around 700 million rand, is that far off the mark?
No comment, Stephen. I think, it's all recorded in our numbers. And, I think with a 33% growth, we're very happy with it. But we're also happy, as is Mr. Makati, to have put this issue behind us.
No, I'm sure. I mean, it's been dragging on for so long. As I understand it, you as Vodacom and he as Makate have signed a non-disclosure agreement. Did the request for you to keep this confidential, did it come from you or from him?
I think it's in the agreement, so, not at liberty to say.
You can't even tell us who asked for it who asked to keep it secret.
No.
I mean, I've been trying to work out what Vodacom would gain from keeping it secret, because to me, the fact that it is a secret gives it a greater power, whereas, I mean, frankly, whatever reputational damage it could have done has been done, if there was any. And if we knew, the story would go away. Now I think it's going to hang around, as I'm sure it's hung around your entire day, Shamil, for a lot longer.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, that's just something we're going to have to deal with. But I think effectively, it's in the numbers, it's recorded, it's there. Of course, you can see lots of speculation on what the number is. But, I think from our side, we're just happy to have closed the issue and to move on. And I think so are investors.
Mm. Okay. That's the longest no comment we've had. Your overall growth is pretty strong. You say you're ahead of your targets. In South Africa, your growth seems a bit muted, especially compared to your other markets. Are there particular competitive pressures here? Is that having an impact?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors playing out into the South African market. But, one of the things that, first and foremost, we realized that South Africa was becoming a more mature market a few years ago, and hence the diversification of strategy. And what you're seeing in the numbers is, that strategy playing out, which is both a diversification from a geographical lens, which was adding Egypt and Ethiopia. And then, of course, and also from a product lens, with the biggest of that, of course, being the fintech part. And then, of course, fiber, which is the deal that has been approved by the competition authorities. So that strategy is starting to bear fruit quite nicely. That said, in the South African environment, the market is more subdued. Specifically, I would say in the prepaid segment more than the other segments, because we're still seeing strong growth in traffic, in contract, in contract, in enterprise, and so on. But really, the pressure point coming through in the prepaid environment, and specifically, I would say a couple of things playing out. One is a subdued economic environment, so that's the first part. I think gambling playing out in terms of taking money out of the consumer wallet. And so that's definitely coming into effect. And then thirdly, I think just some of the competitive parts where, specifically around voice, where you are seeing competitors, throwing in voice and certain offers and these type of things. And we've had to respond to make sure that we can keep our customer base, and the customer base grew during the period, so we haven't lost share. But yeah, it's come at, that repricing or those changes, and let's say more competitive offers, has affected prepaid revenue.
It's interesting. I mean, we've had so many different sectors mentioned: online gambling, we've had fast food, we've had Sean Summers at Pick n Pay. You reckon it might be having an impact on you too?
Yes. And I think generally, if it's affecting telco is historically been more resilient than most other sectors, then, you can assume that it's having a very big impact.
No, absolutely. The massive deal, so you can now start to really invest in broadband fiber internet. You've wanted it for a long time. We've heard from you and your frustration about how long it's all taken. How quickly is it going to be before you can start to roll all of that out? I mean, there is still, I think, quite a lot of space for broadband fiber internet in South Africa.
Well, we're still waiting for one approval from ICASA, who basically provisionally approved this in 2021. So, waiting for that final approval that hopefully we'll get in the next week or so. Then, the monies can flow, let me put it that way. And that will help Massive to kind of unlock some of the value part and so on. And I think a lot of opportunity, because South Africa only has 6.6 million homes passed and just over 2.2 million homes connected. And you've got about 17 million homes. So there's a long way to go in terms of fiber connectivity. But the way we see it is that is you building fiber to the site in the DFA, which is part of Massive part, that then unlocks, that will be for all operators. So that unlocks 5G. But at the same time, as you're building that, there's homes and businesses nearby that you can potentially connect. And then that of course gives rise to the ISPs being able to sell it and so on and so on. So a lot of opportunity to grow, and I think it will be quite transformational for South Africa in a lot of ways.
Shamil Joseph, thanks very much indeed. Good luck with the rest of the day of no comment. The group CEO at Vodacom. 18 minutes after 6.
7:02. Stephen is on the Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
The JSE confirming today the Competition Commission has referred the JSE to the Competition Tribunal after making a finding that the stock exchange had tried to stop growth for the new index, A2X. I say new, it's been around for a while, but let me say smaller rival. The JSE, it says, denies these terms in the strongest possible terms. It'll fight the case in the tribunal. Kevin Brady is the CEO at the other index, A2X, and the person who lodged the complaint. Kevin, good evening. What did you base your complaint on? Why do you believe the JSE is trying to stop you getting new business?
Hi, Stephen, and thanks for inviting me to the show. So obviously we've been operating since the end of 2017, and I think along our journey we've obviously had to at various points engage with the JSE. And what we found is one of the key obstructions revolves around post-trade interoperability. In short, that means that when a broker is in the aim of trying to achieve best execution for a client, gets an order for 1,000 SASL, He goes and buys some on the JSE, some on A2X in the aim of getting the best price and the liquidity he's looking for. He then has a challenge in how he can book that as one ticket to his client with total volume and average price. Now, the challenge is that the JSE mandate their post-trade system called BDA, Broker Dealing Accounting System. And they've used this mandated status to actually make it very difficult for brokers to actually achieve best execution and trade across markets. And that is really the core of our complaint, is that obstruction and deliberate obstruction is really holding back the South African market as a whole. At the end of the day, we were just looking for a level playing field. We want to fight on price, on service, on innovation, and all those good things. And we feel that unlocking this hurdle in the way will create a much more dynamic and progressive market, and I think it'll be good for all.
Okay, the system that they use now, did they use it before before you were created in 2017?
That is correct. I mean, that BDA system's been in place for about 37 years.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get to is, isn't that a key part of the argument, and wouldn't it weaken your argument? They're just using the same system they've always used. Are you not now demanding that they change it to suit you?
So, well, I would say, does it in terms of forcing interoperability, is that important? Now, South Africa is probably the only country in the world where we have a mandated post-trade system. Most regulators have made sure that any key systems are either open access or they can't be mandated. So the fact that this is mandated and closed access, and it's a key system for brokers, I think is what the issue. So, this is using an historic position to block entrance and actually really halt brokers from doing the best for their clients.
So is the JSE the JSE is not the regulator in this case, is it?
So look, the JSE, all exchanges have a degree of responsibility about regulation.
Yeah.
But you're quite right in terms of the regulators, the financial services.
So isn't your fight with them then, rather than the commission, rather than going to the competition?
Well, I think there are two issues. One is regulatory issues. What has the regulator done in terms of creating a level playing field? One, and we can see draft regulation in place. We are look what they're bringing is going to make us look more like international best practice. Unfortunately, it is taking time, and that's frustrating. Then there is, within that, what is the JSE doing to obstruct competition? And that's where our focus is. So, yeah, those are the two things. Our focus is on what are they doing to obstruct it, not the regulation.
Okay, but you're demanding. I mean, Kevin, don't get me wrong. I have sympathy with your case. Yeah. But what you're demanding is, you're saying you must change the system that you've used because we want it to be easier with our system, and you're complaining that the JSE is not doing that, and you've reported them to the Competition Commission, who's gone to the tribunal. When actually, shouldn't your fight be with the regulator? Shouldn't you be going to them to say, this market is anti-competitive, this is why it's anti-competitive, and this is the system we should use like everybody else?
So we're doing both. We are working with the regulator. We are pressurizing the regulator for new regulation. But as I say, within that regulation, there's certain things that are restrictive. But within that, then there's also abusing your dominant position and abusing your position of mandating systems, right? Again, uniquely so in the world, that understand it's their system, but this is not about a system. This is about, if you're managing markets, it's about information. So as I say, our fight is with them, and actually when I say our fight, it's not really just us. I mean, the Competition Commission has done a 3-year market-wide investigation. And obviously, following that investigation, they agree. They're saying the way they're behaving is anti-competitive.
What do you believe the difference would be for your business if the system was interoperable? How big a factor would it be, is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, no, it's an important factor. If you can create interoperability, a level playing field, so that it's for a broker can easily trade across markets, can easily combine trades from one to the other and issue a single ticket, it would be huge for A2X.
Kevin Brady, thanks very much indeed. I do appreciate it. The CEO at A2X, a very interesting set of comments that are being put there. And obviously very, very intriguing to see what he says. In fact, Paul, who is a stockbroker, been a stockbroker for 40 years, it says here on the JSE, is on the line. Paul, good evening. You heard that conversation. What's your view?
Hi, good evening. Yes, I sympathize with A2X as a result of working with the JSE, the BDA system for the last 37, 38 years, as a result of which, unfortunately, the JSE compels us to utilize this. So it doesn't allow us to go out and utilize, best practice or best execution for our clients. As a result, we are dictated to, the costs are higher. If A2X could really, be on a level playing field, I think, there's going to be much more competitiveness. There's going to be more activity that goes through the markets, and it certainly is going to be beneficial for the South African economy.
Do you believe it's deliberate by the JSE from your experience?
Well, I think they're protecting their own monopoly. That's what I see.
Okay, Paul, thank you. Very strong view there. Stockbroker for 40 years, it says here, on the JSE. Very interesting case. Kevin Brady, we will watch that very closely. The CEO at ATX, just a reminder, in the SEND statement and elsewhere, the JSE is saying that they deny these claims, and I think the phrase was the strongest possible terms. 26 minutes after 6.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Siboniso Ngomalo is the Chief Investment Officer at the Old Mutual Investment Group. Siboniso, good evening. Busy day. Vodacom, you would have heard Shamil Jusub's no comment. He's said that several times today. And that's still the question everyone wants to know. How much did they pay?
Yeah, Stephen, it is the literally million, billion, $100 million question, except we will never know. But Vodacom reported a great result. And I think there's some few things to note in this result. I mean, this result is a result powered outside of South Africa. If you look at South Africa, operating profit was down 11%, and that's obviously where the payment also went out of. Egypt up 66%. And so generally what's happened, a very strong result, but it came from non-South Africa. Now, what's going on in South Africa, Stephen? There's a lot of competition in South Africa, and it's a market that actually just requires some consolidation in order to get to health. So if you look at Telkom numbers, MTN numbers, and obviously Vodacom numbers, there's a lot of pressure in South Africa. And so therefore, it's good that Vodacom strategically has changed and actually gone out and diversified into Africa. That's been a good strategy.
Raubex's interim earnings, they were down 14%, I think it was. They did say that their results were solid. How did you read it?
Yeah, I suppose the devil's in the detail here. So the order book, which is work one that they're going to execute in the future, that's up around 8%. So the future looks good, except we don't know what the profitability of that order book is. What we can tell about it is that Sunrail is awarding work to them again in terms of road construction. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the country. It's a good thing for them. Where the numbers really were challenged in Raubex was their mining division. There was a small loss of 7.6 million in their mining division. And Australia, now, South African companies, construction companies have lost a lot of money in Australia. And Raubex, for this particular half, had a bad contract in Australia, and they've lost 95 million rand. So that was where the pressure came from.
Yeah, no, I mean, Australia, that story just goes on and on. And then Omnia results, we'll speak to their CEO in a couple of moments. How did you read it?
Yeah, this is a pleasant result, Stephen. I think actually it is the last time they reported, which was in the full year. I think I actually made a comment. Seelan has done an amazing job in this business. When he inherited it, it was not the business that you see today. So a turnaround story, and then it has been fairly stable. But he also does talk about it's been a tough environment to operate in South Africa. So we can see revenues up 3%, profits around 12%. And again, their chemicals division, which has been their Achilles heel for a little while, here that revenue is down 38%, and there's a small loss in that particular business. But they're basically focusing on changing that business and selling some assets. And so, again, they've held their own, but it's a tough environment to operate in. And I think this is something in common that we're seeing in South Africa, Stephen, is that business is really, really hard, and management's having to work really smart in order to do something.
Siboniso Ngomalo, really appreciate the views. Thank you very much indeed. Chief Investment Officer at the Old Mutual Investment Group. You're with The Money Show. We'll speak to the CEO of Omnia in a few moments. It's just gone 6:30. Maki Malapo, good evening. Arguments once again about crime statistics.
That's right. The Democratic Alliance is demanding accuracy and transparency in the upcoming crime statistics. Good evening. Last month, the South African Police Service postponed the release of the first quarter crime statistics for the 2025-2026 financial year. The DA says the stats are more than 4 months overdue and has left Parliament and the public in the dark about the true state of crime in the country. The party also alleges that the late release follows damning findings from the Auditor General of serious discrepancies and unverifiable data across SAPS reporting systems. DA MP on Police Lisa Schikkeling says the range from inflated arrest success rates to unreliable firearm recovery figures. She says this lack of accuracy and transparency raises serious questions.
South Africans deserve the full truth about crime in their communities, not selective numbers designed to save face. The DA demands full transparency, independent verification, and a clear explanation to Parliament, because without credible data, there can be no real strategy, no accountability, and no progress in protecting our people, especially our most vulnerable women and children.
Some community leaders in Westbury claim they've been excluded from police engagements which took place in Sophiatown today. Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia has been meeting with some Westbury community leaders to find ways to address the crime and gangsterism problem in the area. Over the past few weeks, gang-related shootings in Westbury and Riga Park claimed the lives of at least 8 people. West Rand community leader Eugene Dooms says that he wasn't informed about the meeting and he has no idea who the selected leaders are.
I only got to know about it this morning when I saw, on the news that a meeting was going to take place today. And I was also taken by surprise, because, as community leaders, activists, we are supposed to be informed about all of this so that we can provide our opinion and also give, solutions.
Actionist says Ekurhuleni mayoral candidate Xolani Khumalo has officially been sworn in as a councillor in the metro. The party says the move is aimed at giving him much-needed governance experience ahead of the upcoming local government elections. The party recently fired 2 of its Ekurhuleni councillors for poor performance. These 2 vacancies were filled by Khumalo and Gavin City. Both were sworn in at the city's council chambers in Germiston today. Khumalo says he's looking forward to representing the people of Ekurhuleni in council.
The reason why this opportunity was presented to me is because of the track record and the work that I've done. Not because of I know how council works or I know certain policies that are in the municipality, but if other people can do it, so can I, There's living proof of things being possible. Our president, Bob Mashaba, 0 experience in mayorship work, but he managed to do it.
And in North America, the UN's Regional Health Organization has informed Canada that it no longer holds measles elimination status. Canada was formally declared measles-free in 1998, an achievement credited to years of consistently high childhood vaccination rates. But an outbreak that began in the eastern part of the country in October last year has spread nationwide, notably among certain groups of Mennonite Christians who have refused to vaccinate their children on religious grounds. Canada has so far recorded 5,138 measles cases this year, with Ontario and Alberta provinces the hardest hit. The Pan American Health Organization says Ottawa lost its elimination status after the organization confirmed sustained transmission of the same measles virus strain in Canada for a period of more than 1 year. Government agency Health Canada said in response, provincial health ministers are discussing coordinated actions, including strategies to build trust in vacancies through community engagement. Health Canada noted that while measles transmission has slowed recently, the outbreak has persisted primarily within under-vaccinated communities. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng with afternoon scattered thundershowers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 15 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 22 and 24 degrees. A foggy morning for the mother city. Otherwise, it's clear skies tomorrow with moderate northwesterly winds at a low of 16 and a high of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. The Democratic Alliance is demanding accuracy and transparency in the upcoming crime statistics.
EWN Traffic.
On the N1 South, after Rivonia Road, there's a crash that's obstructing the right lane. And if you're on the N1 South at Malibongwe, there's also a crash that's in the right lane. And on the N12 West, be on the lookout for a stationary vehicle that's from the R24 West. If you're in Cape Town on Hospital Bend incoming, there's still that vehicle broken down. It's in the right lane, so please be on the lookout for that if you're heading into town. And Boys Drive, that is closed in both directions for roadwork, so please use an alternative route. More Eyewitness News traffic at 7.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us. Because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year.
Listen, if I
We cover
have to
civil,
choose
criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
Well, looking forward to your comments about where you think your city should spend money if it does get a part of this loan from the World Bank. 16 billion rand, we understand, to fix cities in South Africa. As I say, it's obvious that it's got to be water, it's got to be electricity, it's got to be potholes. But where else would you spend the money if it were you? What would your big three things be? Just thinking and reflecting a little bit on the conversation with Shamil Yusuf from Vodacom, I still think it's a very important question as to who asked for the non-disclosure agreement. If it was Makate on the Please Call Me case, wouldn't that give Vodacom a little bit of leverage? And if that was the case, wouldn't the settlement be a little bit lower? And if it was Vodacom, wouldn't that give Makate even more leverage than he already had on the back of all of the court judgments and all the rest? Trying to get into all of this, I mean, I do wonder if at some point the exact number may just somehow fall out. I mean, these things happen from time to time, but I thought that was very interesting. There was a series of statements today from, I think it was the Road Traffic Management Agency and others, but in the end, the decision, I think, came from Barbara Creasy, the Transport Minister, and she's been busy lately. I mean, she's been here, there, and everywhere in all sorts of different ways. But now delaying the introduction of the demerit system. The demerit system, of course, is where if you're caught speeding or breaking the rules or breaking the law, whatever it is, you will lose points on your fine. You lose too many, you lose your fine temporarily. You lose too many, it's hard to get it back. Again, it's now been suspended for 6 months. And I mean, at the time when this was first proposed, and I have to tell you, this would have been about 15 years ago. I remember saying, I think probably to a deputy transport minister, might have been Jeremy Cronin, I can't remember properly, and saying, I can't believe that this system will ever come because I do not believe that all the councils will get all of their IT systems right. I hate to be the one to say those words, I told you so, but a part of the statement was about dealing with the IT problems in certain councils. It's a big thing to do. It's a difficult thing to do, but yeah, in the end, I'm not convinced it's going to happen in the way that we think it is. I think something like it will happen, and I think it's a good idea. But you've got to get the law exactly right. And the real problem with the demerit system at the moment is that it just pushes up the price of a cool drink. I mean, you know what I mean, right? That's all it does, is it pushes up the price of a cool drink, and that's a major problem. Your thoughts, 072 702 1702.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, good evening. The latest on Bafana.
While Stephen Hugo Brugge says friendly games don't exist as South Africa gear up for Saturday's clash against Zambia, it's the first time Bafana returned to the pitch since qualifying for next year's FIFA World Cup.
My first idea was to let players of Sundowns and Pirates in their club because they have a very overloaded program. But at the end, I changed my mind because, again, I want to win. And why I want to win, first of all, it's important for our ranking. We want to stay certainly in the first 10 and even go to 9 again. And secondly, we are 1 month before AFCON, and it shouldn't be not a very good thing if we should lose the game on Saturday.
Brugge will announce his AFCON 2025 squad in the first week of December. The friendly on Saturday is the last chance for players to impress as he settled on 80% of his squad for the tournament.
It's also for me the last opportunity to call some players who I wanted to see a little bit more from closer. Therefore, those 2 guys are here with us. They make good performances in their club, so I think that they deserve to be with us. And now it's up to them in the next days to prove that they are on the right place here, that they are players for the future who can help us.
Adeslam Wadu has warned Marumo Gallants that Orlando Pirates don't just play finals, they win them. His comments come after the Buccaneers beat Richards Bay 1-0 to set up a Carling knockout showdown with his former club. That's on the 6th of December at the Peter Mugaba Stadium. Wadu will be looking to win a second trophy since being appointed in July, having clinched the MTN 8 in September.
Take games by games, step by step, and the target is to win every game. You know, when we put the feet on the pitch, the target for the players is to deliver a great game, great performance. All the time the target is to win. So we are going to that final. Of course, a final you don't play it, you win it. The target is definitely to go to win that final.
And Loet Diaghe faces a disciplinary hearing tomorrow, having been red carded against France on Saturday for foul play. The double world champions overcame Le Bleu 32-17, and next up for Andre Esterhazen and the Springboks is a clash against Italy.
I think Italy is a very unpredictable team. It's always a tough game against them. We played them earlier this year, so I think we've got good knowledge of them. This weekend they won Australia, so it's going to be another tough test. We've got 5 big tests this tour, 2 down, and we have to work hard back to the drawing board.
Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for optometrists, surgeons, and other medical specialists. Here's Chrissy.
Business Outsurance is the best insurer for my business. They have great premiums, wonderful service. I know without a doubt that Outsurance has my back, and you always get something out with Outsurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
So Taryn, you've just graduated cum laude, but nothing says you're a genius quite like selling your car to WeBuyCars.
Absolutely. My car was an 18th birthday present, and it's time to move on to something a bit more mature.
So where did you hear about WeBuyCars?
All of my friends are using WeBuyCars. I would have had legit FOMO if I hadn't used them. And it was so quick. I did it on my laptop while sending around my CV.
Smart move, Taryn. Graduated and upgraded. WeBuyCars. Geared for success. Geared for you.
Small businesses are anything but small. They're the backbone of our communities. The dreamers, the doers. The ones who keep Mzansi moving forward. That's why 702 and Capitec Business Banking are putting them in the spotlight. Every Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m. Catch Small Business Focus with Capitec, where we showcase the hustle, heart, and the secrets to thriving in today's economy. Your vision matters, and with Capitec, you're never building it alone. Small Business Focus with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m. on 702. Capitec Bank is an authorized FSP 46669. WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
Well, a comment on the WhatsApp line from Sean Robinson saying, wondering about the reporting period for Vodacom results, and the CEO comment the settlements and the numbers. Weren't the numbers only settled last week? How can it be in the numbers? Sean, that's a great question. And my understanding of it is that there were interim results, interim numbers out. And where all of the speculation is coming from is the difference between the interim numbers and the results that came out today. That's the speculation. That's what it's based on. So you're right to ask the question, but that's my understanding of the answer. I hope that makes sense. but basically people have been looking through the interim results and then today's results, and that's essentially where that comes from.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, when I heard about this $925 million loan, my first question is, Stephen, how are we going to pay it back? President Ramaphosa borrows so much money, Stephen, I don't even know. And guess what? We are not making money. Where is it supposed to be spent in municipalities? Oh, sweet Lord, it's going to be spent on salaries, Stephen. They're not going to fix the infrastructure, which that's where the money should go. So it's a shame. It's another generations are going to pay loans for stuff that we don't even know. Why are we borrowing so much, Stephen? Gustav.
All right, thank you. Yeah, very strong comment there about the World Bank lending South Africa around 16 billion rand for cities. Look, you get it on very good terms, eh? I mean, you get it on the best possible terms. So I hear you, but you do get it on very good terms.
702 with Stephen Grootes.
Email him on stephen@702.co.za.
The mining, chemicals and agricultural group Omnia, reporting its headline earnings up by 11% in the 6 months to the end of September, says mining activity has strengthened. There's firm demand as well for fertilizer and other agricultural technologies. Seelan Gobalsamy is the CEO at Omnia. Seelan, good evening. Welcome back to the Money Show. You say mining activity has strengthened moderately. Are you seeing increases there for your products and services in the mining sector?
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and good evening to your listeners. I think if we look at our result in the first 6 months, a big driver of the double-digit growth in earnings of 12% is our mining sector. Our mining sector performed really well, revenue up 3%, profit up 7%. And there are some areas that faced headwinds. So, if we just take it at a broad level, diamonds as an example, faced headwinds with diamond prices being less. But there are areas like uranium that we saw very strong demand for explosives and chemicals in Namibia. And overall, BME has been able to win volumes across the territories we operate. Our Indonesian business performing well, West Africa performing well, East Africa a little bit subdued due to the strengthening kwacha, driven by some of the geopolitical changes. But mining contributing to over 60% of Omnia's profitability at the moment.
I presume green minerals, lithium, copper, you say that they've corrected. I mean, copper prices have again hit new highs recently after your reporting period. But that must lead to strong demand. I mean, that is probably the basis of a sustained business.
Yes, absolutely. So I think the need for the energy transition, the green transition, all of that is boding well for our business. So our outlook is strong demand. Obviously we've been looking at our exposure to different minerals. There are some like coal where things are a little bit less, but there are other parts of the world where there's strong demand for minerals that might not be needed in other segments. Yeah.
You say there've been climate disruptions and logistics bottlenecks. What kind of problems have you had?
Yeah, so if we talk just broadly about climate disruptions and supply chain disruptions, I think our agriculture business, while it's performed really strong with revenue up and profits up, revenue 11 and operating profits up 9, we have seen some drought in Brazil and Australia, which caused some headwinds in our international agriculture business. But that was offset by very strong volumes of humates and Ferticoat sales out of Australia into India, China, the US and Brazil. From a climate perspective in South Africa, very strong volumes and profits generated from South Africa. And I think Zimbabwe, Zambia, normalizing a bit, which has also aided our segmental performance. In terms of supply disruption, so there we had a large supplier of ours going on a statutory shut that was well planned in advance. And that resulted in the supplier being down for about 60 days, a few suppliers. And we used that opportunity to do our shut, and to do some additional enhancements onto our facility. So our double-digit profit growth is done in a time where 60 days of shut, where our operations were not producing. However, we did not let down any of our farmers or miners in terms of explosives or fertilizer. We've ensured that we planned well, and the agility of our operations and our people really held us in good stead. We do have a world-class facility in Sasolburg, the largest capacity nitric acid plants, the most modern plants in SADC, and an environment that is very agile to be able to deal with issues of this nature.
You speak about structural bottlenecks in logistics and utilities in South Africa. I mean, so often this usually means a conversation about railways. Are you seeing other problems?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, railways are a challenge. I think we can understand what Transnet faces in terms of, copper theft and cables and others. But I think we're also plagued with very weak road infrastructure. So from that perspective, when you add to, the crime issues, and the dangers that we find on our roads, that has also posed a challenge for us. We've had to invest in additional storage, additional rail infrastructure, and additional road logistics to enhance the redundancy in our supply chain. And that's resulted in us not being, never having to let a customer down, as at today. So customers benefit from that additional logistics.
Seelan, there's some indications that our economy might be able to turn around here across a broad range of sectors. Do you get a sense of that at all?
Sure. So, I mean, for our business, South Africa, we're in 23 countries, and South Africa is obviously our home country and where our biggest production facility is in. I think it's a tough environment. People are under a lot of stress, a lot of difficulty from an infrastructure perspective. So I think we have to work very hard together with government and business, to continue to invest in the country, to continue to invest in the economy. We need more jobs. We need less crime, and we need basic services to improve. So I think there's a long road ahead for us.
Seelan, thank you. Really appreciate the thought. Seelan Gobelsamy is the CEO at Omnia. 8 minutes now to 7.
Day 20, awaiting proof of payment. Day 30, still waiting. Day 40, funds finally cleared. In business, credit with 55 interest-free days keeps you moving. We get it. Get an Absa Business Credit Card. Use over 50% of your credit and initiation fees will be on us. Offer ends 31 December 2025. Apply at absa.co.za/business. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. Absa, your story matters.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring exclusive books. Their CEO, Grattan Kirk, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
What do partners of the Gates Foundation do when facing the world's toughest challenges? They keep going. From discovering a plastic drape that helps detect excessive postpartum bleeding faster, to developing better bed nets to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes, to researching an RSV vaccine that could save hundreds of thousands of children. For every problem, there are people who prove that progress is possible. The Gates Foundation, partners of human potential. Learn more at gatesfoundation.org/keep going.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards.
7 minutes now to 7 the time. Where would you want to spend money if you were managing the cities? Where do you think that the money should go? Still lots of comments also coming through, of course, about the Vodacom Please Call Me settlement. Some speculation now, and I think possibly quite informed speculation, that the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, will finally, on Wednesday, announce officially that the inflation target has been changed to 3%. He's due to give his medium-term budget policy statement in Parliament. Currently, the Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee has said explicitly they're targeting the lower end of the inflation target of 3 to 6%. Sanisha Pakarasamy is the chief economist at Momentum Investments. Sanisha, good evening. Obviously hard to know what's going to be in the minister's speech. Do you expect a formal announcement finally about the inflation target?
Thank you so much, Stephen, and good evening to your listeners. I think that the market is very much in a toss-up about whether or not we're going to get that formal announcement being made. But I think, if we look at where fixed income markets have moved, they've basically already priced in that the SARB is implicitly targeting the bottom end of that 3 to 6% target range. And we've seen that the yield curve has actually adjusted quite substantially on the back of that. So I think in terms of, whether we get that formal announcement or not, reading through for the market, I think financial markets have largely priced in the move. And so whenever we do get that formal announcement, I think the market moves on the bond yield might actually be reasonably short-lived, with quite a lot of it in the price already. I think what does matter most is, of course, how it's going to affect our forecast from here on out. So we know that revenue is quite dependent on growth forecasts, but not just real economic growth forecasts, the nominal economic growth forecast. And so that's where inflation plays a particularly important role. If we see that National Treasury, has inflation numbers that are closer to the current midpoint of the inflation target range further out in their economic forecast, it could imply that their revenue assumptions are then based on an overestimation of inflation. And that will concern markets, because that means that the fiscal deficit could in fact be a bit wider than what Treasury would portray.
Okay. The currency was stronger today against the dollar. I realize the dollar is possibly weaker for various reasons. Do you think this expectation of a lower inflation target is playing a role there?
I think the rand is moving on a number of issues, in part quite a lot of global issues. As you mentioned, the dollar has come under a little bit of pressure with the government shutdown in the US really coming to a head. And I think this has caused a bit of concern weighing on the greenback, and of course your emerging market currencies, emerging market assets, including the rand, has then benefited on the back of that. I think there's also been some longer term favorable trends for our terms of trade, which is essentially, the price of the stuff that we export relative to the price of the stuff that we import. Unfortunately for South Africa, the price of the stuff that we import, things like oil, have actually been reasonably capped. And the stuff that we export, such as platinum and gold, we've seen that the prices have done, substantially well over the course of the last year. And so that's contributed to a more favorable terms of trade. And that's actually seen, the rand benefit on the back of that.
There was such a big fight over the budget earlier in the year, and all of that seems to have gone away. And that must surely give the minister a bit more space in which to move, and add to that the fact that SARS has got quite a lot more money than the original estimate. And maybe for the first time in a while, he might feel he has a little bit of elbow room.
I think there is a little bit more wiggle room than what we assumed, at the time of the national budget. And so a few things have shifted since then. The first is, if we look at the revenue figures, we've had reasonably steady personal income taxes, but we've had far more buoyant corporate income taxes. And that's been on the back of the mining sector. And so we've seen that mining sector profitability has shot up on the back of things like gold and platinum prices picking up. We've even seen that VAT receipts are running at quite a pace relative to what was assumed in the national budget. Now, some of that is because of the strength of the consumer that's starting to come back a bit, but also because there have been slower VAT refunds. So from a revenue perspective, we are likely to see a little bit more coming into the coffers than what the national budget predicted. If we look on the expenditure front, we've also seen that the rate of expenditure has been a bit slower. Now, of course, there can still be a little bit of catch-up in the fiscal year, but for the moment, it does create a little bit of wiggle room. And then, in addition to that, we've seen that the yield curve adjustment has actually allowed for borrowing costs to come off a little bit. And so there is, a little bit more space. But of course, we know that the social demands in the context of very elevated inequality in South Africa, does bring about quite a high level of demands on the expenditure side. And for that reason, we are still sitting with reasonably constrained fiscal conditions.
I mean, this is always the thing. How much debt do you pay back? How much more do you spend on health and education, for example? That is going to be the tension that any minister is going to have to deal with for quite some time to come.
Indeed, it's not only the shorter-term pressures. If we look at, on the expenditure front, if you take your civil servant wage bill, if you add to that debt service costs and add to that the social transfers, that makes up about 2/3 of total spending. And that really does limit the fiscal room to maneuver. But in the longer run, we also then have these longer-term affordability requirements for things like healthcare, more affordable healthcare in South Africa, other various social priorities. And we, of course, have, the weak links in the fiscal chain, which are essentially our state-owned entities. We're sitting with more than 700 state-owned entities. And so, rationalization of the number of SOEs is quite important in order to bring up savings and to improve efficiency. We've also seen that the municipalities, are under considerable funding squeeze. And so we do have some longer-term fiscal sustainability question marks arising.
Sanisha, thank you so much. Sanisha Pakarasamy is the Chief Economist at Momentum Investments. You're with The Money Show. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening. I'm Maiki Malapo. The Basic Education Department says it will start implementing language-specific strategies to address the reading crisis in grades 1 to 3 learners nationwide. Minister Siviwe Kwagube says the move is prompted by a study that's revealed that 15% of learners cannot read a single word by the end of grade 3. She revealed the information at the launch of the Funda Uphumelele National Survey, which gives a report of early grade reading outcomes across all official languages in the first 3 grades. Jabuli Lembata has more.
The study shows that there is a strong relationship between mastering reading at a foundation phase and being able to comprehend information being read. It also shows that by grade 4, less than half of the learners can read grade-appropriate levels. Minister Siviwe Kwagube says to address this, the results need to be shared widely so that the extent of the problem is known and solutions can be provided specific to the problems.
At a district and a school support level, by distributing newly developed language-appropriate reading assessments to subject advisors in schools, this work will strengthen accountability and improve support from district officers and school management teams.
She adds that this is to ensure targeted remediation. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News.
The Durban High Court heard evidence from the state's first witness today during the incitement case of Member of Parliament Duduzile Zuma Sambutla. She faces 2 counts of public violence and another of incitement to commit terrorism. This in relation to the July 2021 unrest which sparked KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. The trial began today. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
After Duduzile Zuma Sambutla pleaded not guilty to all the charges, the state led evidence from its first witness. Police Major General Gopal Gavenda told the court that a number of WhatsApp groups were formed to rally support for Jacob Zuma's release from prison, but admitted that Zuma Sambutla was not in any of them. Gavenda testified that her social media account did incite violence.
It became evident that through our investigative methodology that this Twitter account that was registered under the name of the accused before court was indeed being used for the purposes of conveying or inciting followers on the Twitter platform.
Meanwhile, her party, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, says the case is political. Proceedings will continue tomorrow and are set to proceed for the next 2 weeks. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
Factional battles are brewing inside the white Afrikaner-only enclave of Kleinfontein, with a group of residents requesting to pay their rates directly to the Tshwane municipality. A group calling itself the Kleinfontein Residents Association recently met with the city's Deputy Mayor, Eugene Modise, where they made the proposal. But the Kleinfontein Board of Directors says this was an unsanctioned meeting and the group doesn't speak on behalf of the entire settlement. Thabiso Goba has more.
Kleinfontein is a 900-hectare settlement privately owned by a holding company that's run by a board of directors. People who reside in Kleinfontein do not own the houses they live in. Instead, they are given long-term leases. As a result, the residents pay their levies and taxes to the board, and in turn, the board pays the Tshwane municipality. However, chairperson of the Kleinfontein Residents Association, Hank Celia, says some residents no longer trust the board with its money.
And that is why we made contact with the municipality and says, no, we are not part of those gangsters that if we pay, they don't pay it over to the municipality. Now the municipality is threatening to demolish our settlement.
Kleinfontein spokesperson Danny Dabia says the KRA is a, quote, informal pressure group that doesn't represent the settlement. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
The implementation of the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act has been postponed once again. The Transport Ministry says a postponement to July next year is necessary as some municipalities are not ready for it. ARTO was due to commence on the 1st of December this year. It aims to remove traffic offences from the courts and handle them administratively, coupled with the introduction of a demerit system. The department says it conducted an assessment of readiness, and in some municipalities, the training of officials is still incomplete. Spokesperson Colin Msibi.
Some of the issues identified during the assessment in the main include the harmonization of current law enforcement system used by various municipalities and funding thereof.
And the British Broadcasting Corporation has apologized to President Donald Trump for speech editing. It's been facing criticism over a documentary that misled viewers by editing a speech by the U.S. president that suggested he instigated an attack on the U.S. Capitol in 2021. According to a leaked internal BBC memo, the program edited two parts of the speech together, so Trump explicitly encourages the Capitol riot. This has resulted in the resignations of some of the broadcaster's top brass. UK political leaders say they hope the resignations will lead to change, while Trump has welcomed the decision. Gold's trading at $4,095.57 an ounce. The rand's at 17.15 to the dollar, at 22.58 to the pound, at 19.81 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $63.49 a barrel.
On the N1 North, there's an incident at Brakfontein Interchange. 2 lanes are closed. The back of the queue is at New Road. And on the N1 South, there's still that earlier crash after Rivonia Road. The right lane's closed. And on the N1 South at Malibongwe. And in Cape Town, on Baden-Powell Drive and Annandale Road, there's a crash involving a motorcyclist. And there's still the vehicle broken down on Hospital Bend, incoming in the right lane.
Look at your weather. A partly cloudy Tuesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon scattered thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 22. Pretoria and Vereeniging are both at 16 and 24. A foggy morning for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies with moderate northwesterly winds at a low of 16 and a high of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The Basic Education Department says it will start implementing language-specific strategies to address the reading crisis in grades 1 to 3 learners nationwide.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards. 7 minutes after 7 the time. Lots to come. Interesting, just the comments about inflation targeting. It does, as I say, it seems to me, that was the conversation we had just before the 7 o'clock news. It seems to me that it's just get it done. I mean, we all know it's going to happen. We know, I think, that the finance minister clearly has no opposition to it. Might not like what the Reserve Bank's got done, but just gotta get it in and be done with it, and see what happens. It's astonishing in a way, and let me just make a bigger point. If you consider how fractious, difficult, complicated, messy, and argumentative, I've got many more words, to describe our politics, it is astonishing that one of the biggest economic changes of lowering the inflation target for the Reserve Bank is going through with virtually no discussion. I mean, really none. There are a few people, we've had a few opponents of it on the Money Show, but there's no organized fight against it. And I think this is a comment, a much greater comment, on the state of the left in South Africa. It's just sort of disappeared. And the SACP says it's going to compete elections on its own. Bladen Zamande was quoted over the weekend as saying we need to rethink that. You've got to be unified if you're going to have these fights. And I just don't see it. And that means that the technocrats... Now, look, don't get me wrong. I think it's the right decision. Broadly. I mean, there are problems with it, but I think it is the right decision. There's just no big political fight. I mean, I've heard really very few voices. Willenzima Vavi is one, the SACP is another. The other people we've heard who've come out and said we don't want a change to inflation targeting. We don't want the actual target to be lowered. But it's happening, and there seems to be virtually no one opposed to it. No one putting their head above a parapet. No one shouting. No one screaming. I find that really quite incredible. Your views, 011 883 021 4460567.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, in a moment, Carol Payton from Fin24 about the most astonishing story around the valuation of Lanseria. But that's kind of, in a way, not the most astonishing part about it. You'll hear that in just a second. She's already on hold for you. Dion Chang is actually speaking to us as an author tonight. His book is called A Perfect Life. That's P-A-W, perfect. Yes, it's about animals. It's about pets. It's about the growth of the pet economy and how quickly it's grown. And in our lifetime, virtually all dogs have gone from sleeping outside to possibly maybe a third of dogs sleeping inside. I mean, the change has been dramatic. And not just here, by the way. I was looking it up today. In China too, for example. 2 generations ago, dogs were guard dogs. Now they're pets. There's a big difference. Of course, there's still millions of guard dogs in South Africa, or sort of outside pets, if you like. But still, there's been a big change here too. I think it's undeniable. And looking forward to the conversation with the aesthetic doctor. That's how he describes himself, Dr. Reza Mir. And talking, I suppose, about how you make people look better. Is it all about age? Is there something about yourself you would change, maybe? Your thoughts. 011 883 702 021 4460567, and of course voice notes as well on 072 702 1702.
702. Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
An important report in Fin24 today showing that the PIC is now going to court to try to get back 411 million rand that it paid to the BES shareholder at Lanseria Airport. The shareholder is called Acapulco. It's part of a much bigger dispute about the valuation of Lanseria Airport. It's by Carol Payton, the editor-at-large at Fin24. Carol, good evening. I couldn't quite believe what I read. This company, Acapulco, got paid 411 million rand when they did not actually put any money into the airport itself. It borrowed money from the PIC to buy the stake. Is that right?
That's right. And not only did it not put any money in, it still owed the PIC 660 million when it got the 400 million. In other words, what happened was the PIC decided, and there's a story to how this valuation came about, but the PIC decided that the Lanseria Airport that their stake with Acapulco's, which is 25%, was worth R1 billion, and that therefore the airport as a whole and the Lanseria Holdings was worth R4 billion. And the other shareholders in Lanseria Holdings and everybody else says, well, wow, this is crazy. That's about, 4 times what we think the value is. So, yeah, Acapulco's done very well out of this.
Gee, I mean, I realize that, it's a BE partner. The deals are different to lots of other deals. But to get so much money when you've done, well, from what I can see, you've put nothing at risk, you've put nothing into it. I mean, that's quite astonishing.
It is astonishing. And even along the way, is that the airport as an asset didn't perform very well because we had COVID, and it's still performing. It still is flying at, I think, 54% of its pre-COVID capacity. And I think there's only one airline that flies there commercially, that's SAF. So it's not doing well. So when the other shareholders actually had a capital raising somewhere along the line, because they needed to put more money in, and all the other 2 shareholders put more money in, but Acapulco apparently didn't. So yeah, it's a great bonanza.
How did the PIC get such a? Because I mean, from what you say now, the PIC wants the money back. They made the payment to Acapulco. Now they want that money back. How did they get the valuation of Lanseria so wrong? I mean, it must be pretty obvious that it's not as busy as it used to be. And I mean, the last time I was there was probably 6-7 months ago. But I mean, I could have told you there's only one airline.
Yeah. Well, it is strange because there were several valuations, and each time there was a valuation, I think there was a disagreement between the PIC and Acapulco on what the actual value was. So there were several valuations, and then a third valuation, which was a real outlier, and that was the one which valued it so high. And then what happened is the PIC said, okay, we'll try and settle this through arbitration because this is not working. And from what I understand, the PIC didn't do very well at the arbitration, and so this didn't actually give a good argument at the arbitration, and so this is the valuation that stood. Some people say, well, clearly what's happened here is they've double counted for the land value and the enterprise value, but whatever it is, I mean, as you say, you only need to look at it to know that it's not worth that. So how they settled on that and paid the money because Acapulco's already been paid is quite flabbergasting.
So much has been going on around the PIC at the moment, Carol, and this is an impossible question for one journalist to ask another. But, I mean, does it seem almost like there was, and you can see sometimes in a chain of a decision, that someone is trying to do something? It doesn't look like the PIC was trying to look after its money and value here.
Well, that is a part of the problem. You see, so this transaction dates back to 2013. And that is when a whole lot of these bad, they call them the legacy transactions, these bad transactions, Daybreak Farms and various other ones, they all happened at that time when the PIC was categorically captured at that point. So it dates from then. But even then, they've had another incident, I think, this year, at the beginning of this year, where one of their newer investments has gone completely bad. And this is all of these investments are coming out of this fund, this unlisted investments that the PIC has, where there's a lot of discretion by the investment professionals at the PIC to decide, what to invest in. And it's such a sweet deal because, I mean, if you can get what Acapulco got, I mean, that's fantastic. So everyone's queuing up to try and get in the door. And I think that this raises the prospects for all sorts of backhanders, bribes, etc., etc. And I don't think there's enough scrutiny and oversight, and I think that's a kind of structural problem with the PIC, with the Isabaya Fund in particular.
There's been so many stories. You've done some of them. I mean, the Chief Investment Officer, Kabelo Rokotso, if I recall correctly, he's been suspended. Is there a particular reason why all of this is happening now? Is it just because Carol's more interested in the PIC than she used to be? Or is it because something else is going on there?
No, I think that these things have been bubbling under the surface. And this is what happens when they bubble under the surface. They suddenly, something kind of brings them out. And as I said, these are legacy transactions. So the same thing, the transaction of which sort of precipitated the suspension of the Chief Investment Officer was the AO delisting, where once again there was a disagreement over the valuation. And so I think there's been a situation where the PIC has been getting up to all sorts of things. There's been sort of brewing discontent, brewing kind of talk around in political circles and in investment circles, and it kind of has come to the surface. So, I mean, I think, to cut a long story short, I think basically, they had the whole commission into the PIC, and what we see now is that the PIC has not been fixed.
What would it take to fix? And I mean, I realize everybody at this point wants to change the law and change the structure. I do wonder if just because of the sheer size of it, now the sheer size of it comes with a lot of advantages, but maybe it needs to be quite a fundamental shift to make sure that there's a lot more oversight, because with the sheer size of it, and particularly in the unlisted space, seems to be where all of these things happen.
Well, there's two kind of structural problems. So one is the board. So because the law now changed, because the PIC was getting away with corruption, the law changed, and now you have all of these sort of representatives that are stakeholder representatives on the board. So actually on this new board, which has just been appointed a couple of months ago, you only have one person on that entire board who's ever worked as an investment professional. None of the others have. So they don't necessarily have the insight into what to look for and how to spot these things. So that's the one issue. And then the other issue is this unlisted fund. So the unlisted fund is only 2% of the PIC's total value. But I mean, that's 75 billion or something. So it's a lot of money. And they really should, consider just contracting out all of that money to private sector and having proper oversight over it, because as long as there's a pot of money sitting there that is governed by politicians and people who are representatives of various stakeholder organizations, as long as you've got that, you're going to have people wanting to access that money.
Carol Payton, thank you very much indeed. Editor-at-large at Fin24. I'm afraid this is not the last time you're going to hear from Carol about the PIC. 20 minutes after 7.
The Money Show.
Business Books.
Well, you'll have heard us speak to Dion Chang many times in the past. He's the CEO and co-founder of Flux Trends. He's got a new book out. It's called, I need to pronounce this correctly, A Perfect Life. And it is about, pet parents. It's about people who have pets. Dion, good evening. You've told us before, and we've spoken briefly in the past about the world around pets, but the pet economy has changed just so dramatically over the last 30 years or so.
Good evening, Stephen, and to all the listeners as well. It has been extraordinary. I think last time I spoke, I mentioned a stat that really was the genesis of the book, that we've been tracking aging populations, declining birth rates around the world, so just changing demographics. And in South Korea, where there's a real problem about birth rates, in 2023, the largest e-commerce retailer in South Korea released their results, and they discovered that they had sold more pet strollers than baby human strollers.
Oh, my word.
That got me thinking that something was up. And then when I started digging around, it's happening all over the world. So on both sides of the planet, in America and in China and Japan, there are more households with pets than households with children under the age of 15. So there's a huge shift happening.
And are most of these pets dogs? I mean, that's sort of the original pet. I mean, cats don't call themselves pets, but obviously they are too.
You're talking to a very dedicated cat butler. So yes, both dogs and cats. Some people extend that to their feathered friends and everything, but I've focused predominantly on cats and dogs.
I mean, the economy around this must be worth a fortune, from pet food to strollers to doggy treats. I mean, doggy ice cream is on sale near where I live. Constant fight with my children because no. But then also on transporting animals as well.
Yes, so you're getting. I went down multiple rabbit holes to look at the services that of extreme pet pampering. So I think normal pet parents would either go with their pets or if you're going long distance in cargo. But there are now services. There's airlines called Bark Air or VistaJet. They transport solely. And it's the other way around. They say one pet and a human. So it's not a human and their pet, but one pet plus a human. But it goes on. So there's a new category which I also discovered called barkitecture. So architecture.
Don't. No, I don't know. A kennel is a kennel.
No. So barkitecture is when you kind of redesign your home around your pet. So, for example, in very northern hemispheres where it's cold and it's very muddy and rain, you've got a sort of a shower station in your mud room, which is like a laundry room. But other people have done little alcoves if you've got a staircase, and under the stairs where Harry Potter would have stayed, that becomes a luxury dog kennel or a dog house for them. So, and cats also have their own category because people are creating now catios, so patios for cats, and they're sort of enclosed for safety and all of that kind of stuff.
I've come across people younger than I, and I'd like to stress that part, younger than I, holding parties, birthday parties for their animals, and I'm like, but their animals don't know. Firstly, dog years are 7 times human years anyway, and secondly, really? I mean, all the dog wants is, something to eat, really.
Well, not the pet parent. The pet parent. So there's an entire chapter devoted to that, and they call bark days. And there are companies, even in South Africa, but I put the gold standard at the London Dog Party Planning Agency, and they plan these massive events for your pet and for a parallel event for the parents, because it's actually just an excuse for the pet parents to get around and then have a drink. But everything. I mean, you mentioned ice cream for dogs. I have a subtitle there called "Should We Serve Drinks?" And there is now beer for dogs, which is non-alcoholic, I must stress, and non-carbonated. But it is kind of spiraling out into this almost insane and absurd level of pet pampering. Although I think most pet parents would secretly say that if they had the means, they would do the same.
Mm. Is it all about where you started, Dion, the kind of lack of children? There's a void. I mean, it's treating an animal like a human. In a way, I don't know if people quite have the same strength of feeling for an animal as they do for a human member of their family. And I can absolutely understand it. Who hasn't, when you've had a bad day, come home, the dog's been happy to see you when no one else is? It can really matter. It can make a difference to almost anyone, actually. It's not very wise or very healthy in some ways, though, is it?
Well, actually, this might surprise you, because I went into the science of fur babies or fur kids, of why we have such a deep attraction, and two things really, really stood out. So the first thing is, if you lock eyes with your spouse, your children, your closest friends, your family, you get a hit of oxytocin. So you get a chemical rush that just hits into your brain, and then it gives you these wonderful feelings. And researchers found out that if you lock eyes with your cat or your dog, you have the exact same chemical reaction inside your brain. So it ignites this chemical reaction and a rush of oxytocin. And then for people who have kids as well, or little toddlers, as well as maybe a young dog or something like that, the facial features of an animal, round eyes, round fluffy face, all of those kind of things. But if you look at the cognitive ability of your pets, they have the same cognitive ability of a 2 or 3-year-old toddler, and they behave like that. So they run around the house with their toys, all of those kind of things. So it also kickstarts a very mammalian care system, and you want to nurture and protect this. So subconsciously, you know it's an animal, but with the oxytocin and with the sort of this toddler syndrome, you really, really want to nurture and take care of this fur child.
That's interesting, because when I look in my dog's eyes, I can't believe I'm saying that, I can understand the care. When I look in particularly my male cat's eyes, all I can see is, if I were bigger and I was a tiger, I would eat you. And I mean, he sleeps on my bed, but that's all I see.
Well, let's just say there's a very, very long interview I do in the book with an animal behaviorist. So what I wanted to do was look at the pet economy, the kind of the services, and that includes my new trajectory of saying goodbye to pets, which is not known in this country, but that hasn't stopped me. A pet doula to help with pet bereavement, because the grief is the same. It's a very, very, people get knocked with what they call disenfranchised grief, because people say, well, just get over it and get another one. But it's a very long and a relationship you have there. But I wanted to speak to a behavioralist, and that she kind of recalibrates all the things in the book. And you probably won't like this, but she said, if you want the perfect dog, get a cat.
I will be sure to say that when I get home. Dion Chang, great to talk to you. Thank you. Really enjoyed that. The CEO and co-founder of Flux Trends. The book is called A Perfect Life. Yes, Pawfect. A Perfect Life by Dion Chang.
Coming up,
The Aubrey Masango Show
on 702
and Cape Talk.
Aubrey, good evening. Dogs in your house, do they sleep inside or outside?
No, mine sleep outside. Mine understand that they are dogs.
That's their place.
Absolutely.
Damn right, yes.
Listen, I must agree with you around the issue of the lack of debate around the inflation targeting.
Yeah, it's amazing, eh?
It's really, really quiet. Very, very interesting. I think that the G20 has got everybody focused, right? Let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the show. Dr. Angelique Coetzee, general practitioner, joins us.
Former chair of SAMA.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about narcolepsy, right? Sorry, am I not in mic? There you go. We're talking about narcolepsy, and we discuss symptoms, treatment options, and medical tips, especially for those who are currently living with the condition. In the second hour of the show, we are going to be talking about the scourge of bullying in our schools. And Mamo Sopito, a social worker at Family South Africa, joins me in the second hour for that conversation. Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, author, academic, and political commentator, joins me in the third hour of the show. We have a wide-ranging conversation about the politics and the current affairs in this country, but we're going to be focusing, I think, on the issue of what's happening at the Ad Hoc Commission and, of course, the Madlanga Commission Committee and the Madlanga Commission. And then, of course, in the final hour, it's an open line, and we reflect on the conversation that we've had in the evening.
Aubrey Masango, thanks very much indeed. Looking forward to it. Don't forget, in a few moments, we'll speak to Dr. Reza Mir, the aesthetic doctor. He, of course, will tell you how he's made his money. Just gone 7:30. Time for the latest Eyewitness News. Marky, good evening. Police are on the N1 in Centurion. What's happened?
Well, Stephen, in a strange discovery, police are responding to a scene along the N1 highway in Centurion this evening, where a man has been found dead in his car with what police believe could be 1 million rands stashed inside. Police are currently combing through the scene near the N1 and N14 interchange. Preliminary findings suggest the man was shot several times with multiple gunshot wounds on his body. Motorists in the area are urged to use alternative routes. We'll have more on this at the top of the hour. The Cape Winelands District Municipality says it's concerned that a change in wind directions could push back a wildfire that is still raging in the Kochmanskloof Mountains above Montagu and Ashton. The blaze erupted last week, and firefighters have been able to divert the fire line away from plantations. The municipality's Joanne Otto.
The fire line continues to burn along the mountain ridge from the area above Sarah's farm in Ashton, past the Galania farm on the Montague side, and across the rocky outcrops as far as the Guano Caves. The only section where the fire moved down the mountain was above Montague Hospital, where it ignited a few eucalyptus trees.
Foreign nationals who are victims of a recent fire at Wingfield in Maitland say their living conditions have gone from bad to worse. A devastating fire broke out last week at the tented accommodation near Maitland Cemetery, leaving 214 people destitute. The occupants living at Wingfield were relocated during the COVID-19 pandemic after being evicted from Green Market Square in the city's CBD. The cause of the fire is still unknown at this stage. Ntutuzelonene has more.
The Wingfield fire has left more than 200 refugees, including women and children, without a roof over their head. This after the blaze destroyed the marquee tent on site and several other structures. One of the fire victims, Faraja Augustine, says they've been sleeping in the cold since the fire broke out.
There's some structures that will remain in front here. We were using them like kitchen, and some were used like tuck shops. So we are just staying outside in front of those structures which remain.
He says there's also no privacy, especially for women and children, since the fire destroyed all the toilets. Meanwhile, teams from the city of Cape Town are still assessing the damage to infrastructure and the repairs that may be needed. Ntutuzelonene, Eyewitness News.
The case against Zimbabwean opposition leader Job Sikhala has been postponed to Wednesday for a formal bail hearing. Sikhala, a former member of parliament for the Citizens Coalition for Change, appeared before the Pretoria Magistrates Court today on charges of possession of explosives. He was arrested last week after explosives were found in his vehicle while he was driving in the capital. NPA spokesperson Lumka Mahanjana says the state is currently unsure whether it will oppose bail.
You see, investigations in this matter are ongoing, but you must understand that the state does not enroll any matters unless there is prima facie evidence. And in this case, there is prima facie evidence against the two accused persons, as they were found in possession of the explosives. Well, they were found with 26 bombs, and then they were also found with 15 other elements.
The Environmental Department has welcomed the arrest of 2 suspects for possession of abalone. The 2 were arrested in Primrose Park in Cape Town on Friday in possession of 6,000 units of abalone with an estimated street value of more than 3 million rand. Department spokesperson Tobile Zulu Molobi says every successful confiscation is a step closer to preserving the country's ocean heritage.
Following a collaborative effort between the South African Police Service's Operation Lockdown 3 and the Endangered Species K9 unit, which uncovered a drying facility containing 6,400 units of abalone with an estimated street value of over 3.5 million rand.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with afternoon scattered thundershowers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows of 15 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 22 and 24 degrees. A foggy morning for Cape Town. Otherwise, it's clear skies with moderate northwesterly winds at a low of 16 and a high of 27 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. In a strange discovery, police are responding to a scene along the N1 highway in Centurion this evening where a man has been found dead in his car with what police believe could be 1 million rands stashed inside.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
At Chamberlain's, there's something for everyone. From building supplies for the home renovators to garden essentials for the homemakers. From power tools for the DIY doers to painting supplies for the patio Picassos. We even have coffee for the slightly sleepy and snacks for the young ones. And for the ones who can never quite find what they're looking for, we have you covered too. With our promise to find and source whatever you need. Chamberlain's, famous for hardware since 1903.
A man driven to the edge. I don't know where you are. I don't know who you're with. When his beloved takeaway was taken away. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will eat you.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia. Connecting the Thaiway.
Calling all wedding planners and venues, restaurants, conference centers, and hotels. Do you need tables and chairs? Home in One has it all. Do you need cutlery, crockery, table linen, and restaurant equipment? Home in One has it all. Do you need tents, gazebos, or umbrellas? Home in One has it all. Affordable prices, the latest trends, with 2 branches in Pretoria and Johannesburg. Shop online at homein1.co.za because we're your number one choice. Home in One has it all.
KwaZulu-Natal has it all, believe it. The Zulu Kingdom is home to unforgettable adventures and experiences that will stay with you forever. Why not invite Abundase and whale watch along our wild coast? Or turtle track in the heart of St. Lucia? Take a tour of our historic battlefields. Then rise above the beautiful Midlands meander in a hot air balloon trip made for 2. Unforgettable happens here. Zwagala.
The Money Show. How I make my money.
Well, it's not very often we get to speak to someone who does what our next guest does, and he's someone you've probably heard of, and someone who's really done some cutting-edge stuff. I'm talking about Dr. Reza Mir, the aesthetic doctor, and he has done many, many things, and also has a little bit of a sideline in aeronautical engineering. Reza, good evening, and thanks so much for agreeing to spend some time with us on My Money on the Money Show tonight.
Hello, only a pleasure.
When I hear the phrase aesthetic doctor, my first thought, and just excuse the cynicism, maybe I've been watching too much reality TV, but I almost immediately think of plastic surgery. But it is a lot more than that, isn't it?
It's very different to plastic surgery. So plastic surgery, plastic and reconstructive surgery is more things you have to go into theater for. What we do is anything that you can do outside of a theater, things that you can do with injectables, surface treatment, machines, these types of things.
And the market for that has really changed. I mean, I was thinking sort of 30 years ago, I mean, if you had said Botox, if you had said this, if you had said that, people would have gone, people do what? Now it's kind of everybody does it. I mean, not me, but everybody else does it.
I remember when it was mainly women, 90%, whereas now it's about 60% women. And I remember when it was a very hush-hush. Nobody wanted to talk about what they were doing. It was always a secret. And obviously we respect that still. But because of social media, I do think everybody is now open to sharing what they're doing. They like to talk about what they've done. And they like to compare themselves to other people and what they're doing. And it becomes quite an exciting thing to share with other people.
It's kind of almost a team thing in a way. Let's all go together.
That does happen. We do have people coming in together, and I think it's nice, whether it's family or friends. You know, we always respect the boundaries of the medical fraternity and make sure that we stick to all our rules. So it's not the likes of a champagne toxin party, but people can come together and they can have fun doing it.
The other thing that's obviously changed, and this is something that's been happening for a long time, but I would say also in the last 30 years, is that people are living longer, but they're also being a lot more productive at later ages. So, I mean, you have people who are doing, I don't know, long cycle races into their 50s and 60s. That did not happen 40 years ago. It certainly wasn't very common. And so when people are being a CEO at 60, they want to look good.
People are living longer, they are productive for longer, and I like to look at things. I'm sure everybody's seen the posts of, you know, the Golden Girls and saying, oh, these people were the same age as Jennifer Lopez is now, and look at the difference. And I think that's actually a good sign of evolution in our society where people are looking after themselves better. And, you know, medical technology is improving in a way that we can look after ourselves better. But also it leaves us space for things like now regenerative medicine, where we can use things like platelets and stem cells and actually make people legitimately younger, not just looking younger.
Do you think it means that people are living longer as a result of those interventions? I mean, some of this is really cutting edge.
I think it's a mixture of a few things, but mainly it's people are finally listening when doctors say, go to gym, don't eat shit. I mean, that's the biggest change, and that makes the biggest change in our longevity and how long we live.
Sorry about that, but he's a doctor. He can say it. Reza, okay, let's just go back a little bit. You were obviously at school, I think a little bit after me, and then you went to medical school. And from everything that I've ever seen or heard about you, I think you're one of those people, and tell me if I get this right, that it was always going to be medical school for you, wasn't it?
No.
Oh,
you know,
really?
I didn't know what to do when I was a kid. I thought I should become a pilot, which I'm doing right now. I'm on 52 hours. And eventually I got there. But also because of Pegasus, I'd like to fly that myself. And, you know, at the end of school, I thought, I don't know what to do. Let me just register for a few things. I chose medicine, law, and actuarial science. And I said, whichever one I get in for is what I'll do. And, you know, the humor of the universe, I got accepted for all. And so I didn't know what to do. And I thought, you know what, let me do a year of medicine. If I like it, I'll stay. If not, I'll try something else. And I did, and I actually did like it. And I enjoyed the process of learning. And, you know, it was hard at first, but over time, I became almost addicted to the feeling of learning and progressing.
Your marks must have been quite something for you to get accepted at all three.
I think they were okay, but you know, there was something called a biographical questionnaire, and they looked for well-roundedness. And, you know, I was honest about it. I put down everything I've done, and I've always had a little bit of, you know, wide interests. We went to DJ school at some point, and all of these little side activities actually came together quite nicely for the people deciding, you know, whether to admit you or not.
No, I suppose that makes sense. Whenever I've spoken to doctors, the one thing they'll agree on is the studying is tough, but also then the first year or two being a junior doctor, actually going to a hospital and treating people, the hours, all of that. It must have been like that for you too?
Internship and community service. I did it at Baragwanath and then Joburg Jain. And it was exactly like people say, probably much worse, understaffed, hours were long. But, you know, it was good experience, and everything you learn there comes back and helps you in many ways. I'll often say to my staff here today, when they feel like they've had a hard day. I say, it still feels to me like I've died and gone to heaven and retired from working in the government hospitals. And no matter how hard the day gets, it feels fine because we've become almost acclimatized to that difficult time. And I think it's a good training ground for the doctors.
The move into aesthetics, how did that happen? I mean, what attracted you to that?
I feel like I was just guided here very organically, almost like I had nothing to do with it. So I was importing a product from a doctor. I don't know if anyone remembers Dr. Robert Ray from Dr. 90210.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, long time ago now.
Long time ago. We were bringing in his products, his skincare line, which is called Sensual Solutions. And one of the products was called Inhibitox. And they said it was a toxin-like cream. And so it actually had a difference. And now that I know enough about toxins and how they work, I'm not sure how that cream worked, but it obviously didn't work where the skin was thicker. And so people kept saying to me, well, you're a doctor, why don't you just do the course and do the injections, do the fillers? And I thought, 10 people have asked me now, someone's trying to tell me something. I went and did the courses and started doing those patients very part-time, but they kept coming back and bringing people with, and their mothers and their sisters and their brothers. And I thought, well, let's see where this goes. And eventually it became the full-time job. Just, I guess I enjoyed the process. Our motto of art meets science is very well placed in this profession. You need to have both sides of that brain active. You need to be in art. You need to respect the science and use it. And bringing them together gives you very good results most of the time.
A lot of what you do, I presume, is about working with skin. And I'm interested in what you've sort of learnt about skin. As my children will tell you, your biggest organ, your heaviest organ is skin. And how the skin sort of works. Because, I've noticed as I get older, my skin changes. I, for various reasons, will be prone to sunspots and things. And yet I also know that, what we can do to look after our skin has changed dramatically. And we actually can do a lot more for our skin than we could 40 years ago.
There's things that we can do preventatively, things that you can do at home, things that we do here. And also, I guess, the protection. We know now that you should wear a sun hat and put some sunblock on when you're going into the sun. We also know that you do need a little bit of sun. You just, don't need it on your face. And it is important for us to just look after ourselves holistically and to understand that each patient is unique and has a unique formula to look after them. So it doesn't help to kind of follow a certain route of we always do step 1, 2, 3. It's about looking at the patient, understanding what they want to have treated, combining that with what we see, making sure that it's always reasonable, always beautiful. They need to walk out looking good, after the settling. But our goal is for everybody to walk around feeling and looking their best without anyone noticing that they've had work done. It shouldn't be visible as, hyperinflated lips and cheeks. And that for us is a fail. What people should say is, wow, you look good. Or they should just be nicer to you. And, the psychology of aesthetics is where it becomes interesting. And I'll give you some interesting facts if you'd like to hear some.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, good. So, there's a value. If you could say an attractive person would earn more money than an unattractive person, what would you think that would be?
Yeah, no, well, there is a value, yeah.
Well, the value is the equivalent of an additional master's degree. And this is what the studies show. And so it's not hypothetical. It's a legitimate, real difference. And sometimes people say, well, that's not fair. But if you look at it, you take a step back. We actually now live in the most fair time in the history of human beings because now there's something we can do about it. And, somebody who is able to get more attention from clients and customers, who's able to sell more because people are more receptive to hearing what they're saying, would naturally actually earn more money. And so sometimes the studies seem a little bit contentious, but when you look at it, it actually is very realistic.
There is also something about being healthy, and that is really about exercise and not eating that stuff that you told us not to eat earlier.
Very much, looking good, feeling good, being healthy, it is holistic. most of the time, for example, we have patients who come in and say, I'd like these injections to burn the fat off my tummy. And, as long as they understand that this is not a weight loss tool, it's something we use to sculpt, and the responsibility is on each and every one of our shoulders to make sure that we are going to gym, looking after ourselves, sleeping, having the right mental attitude, because we can do as much injectables as you'd like. If you don't look after the basics and the foundations and you're not healthy, you don't get the right effect and you don't look great.
Do you think your business is going to be affected or is being affected by the sort of new weight loss medications? Some of them are going off patent this year, next year in particular. Some of them are going from injections into pills. I mean, they're going mainstream in a big way. And if there's one thing that many humans want, it's to look good while still being able to eat nonsense.
Well, I think what people are starting to realize is that there is no easy fix. If you had to look at what it does to you, it causes you to lose weight, and the problem is that you don't lose just fat. You lose muscle, bone, fat. Your face becomes saggy because you lose the weight very rapidly. And so we've been treating a lot of that side effect, and we've been getting people back into shape. Now, the long-term effect of losing muscle is that your metabolism drops. And so when you stop the product, if you go back to eating the way you were before, you actually gain a lot more weight because you have less muscle to burn your energy. The best way that somebody can lose long-term weight is to build as much muscle as possible and to allow that active tissue to increase your metabolism and to use your energy stores. And that's kind of the nice, natural, healthy way to do it.
We're speaking to Dr. Reza Mir on My Money tonight on The Money Show. The aesthetic doctor, fascinating story, learning quite a lot about the business as well. 9 minutes to 8.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 Rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our new Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
Flight Centre's big red sale is back. 21 October to 14 November. Save up to 50% on tours, 35% on cruises, and massive deals on Thailand, Mauritius, and the Maldives. Even local flights from 1,900 Rand return. Now that's a win. Plus, 2 kids stay and eat free on selected breaks. The world's waiting. The deals are calling. So, get to your nearest Flight Centre store today. T's and C's apply. Flight Centre, your centre for travel.
As leaders in renewable energy finance, Nedbank has a track record spanning over 100 years. From pioneering large-scale solar and wind farms to financing complex energy infrastructure in emerging markets, Nedbank offers clients deep sector expertise, combined with the ability to navigate the unique challenges of Africa's just energy transition. See money differently. Nedbank. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards.
The Money Show, how I make my money.
7 minutes to 8 the time. Dr. Reza Mir is the aesthetic doctor. You'll have heard of him many, many times. Reza, I think I sort of have a sense that many of the people who come to you will be people in the public eye, very successful people, rich people. Is it like that? Or actually, are you finding quite a lot of ordinary people sort of come? I realize in our country, I mean, you can't really say ordinary people because it's such a diverse country, but is there a Do you find that there's quite a large different groups of people coming to you?
We have a nice mix of people that come to see us. We've always tried to step back and look at the demographic, see who's coming, where are we meant to be advertising, that type of thing. And we've always found that we had a nice mix of age, basically religion, race. It's kind of like the United Nations. I really like that. But, of course, different people come in with different problems. Younger people would come in looking for things like a little lip or to deal with acne. And people who are older, they need to have more injectables like the toxins, the fillers, the skin conditioning. And they do tend to have more money because they've been working for longer. So it kind of tends to balance out, and people do come for what they need.
I'm interested that there's such that there's such an age spread. I mean, clearly your services appeal to people of all ages.
I would say teenagers starting at about 14, 15, and our oldest patients are in their 90s.
Wow. Sure. You've also been involved in aviation. You did a dissertation in aerospace analysis. I mean, most of us can be interested in planes, Reza, but to actually do a dissertation in it, that's quite something.
So that was actually part of a master's in finance that I did. And I thought, you know what, I need to do a dissertation, and I do need to do some market research and a business plan and modeling for the company that I started called Pegasus Universal Aerospace. And so I combined it in one, and then had the university obviously giving me guidance and that type of thing. And it was kind of a win-win. So I was very happy about that. And it led us to start the development and continue the development of the vertical business jet that we're creating, which is a plane that takes off and lands like a helicopter, but flies like a plane. And, there have been a few eVTOLs in the world, electrical vertical takeoff and landing air taxis. So that's not the same thing. Those are small ones to jump from here to Sandton, for example. What we're looking at is a full business jet that can fly for 6.5 hours at almost 800 kilometers an hour. But I'm not sure. Have you seen the movie The Lost City? The one with Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum,
Yes,
Brad
I have.
Pitt?
Yes.
So they contacted us and they said, "Oh, we like your plane. Can we put it in our movie?" And we said, "This sounds like a scam."
You said, "No, Brad,
thought,
you can't." No,
I was
Sandra.
like, "This sounds like a scam." And I said, "How much money do you want?" They said, "No, we don't want money. We just want to use your model. Can we build a set?" And, they built an interior cabin and did all the scenes where they kidnapped Sandra Bullock. Where she falls over and that type of thing. You'll see if you go back now and watch the Pegasus on the headrest. And they said, "You don't have to pay us anything. Just let us use your plane." And I thought, well, sure, this is a good opportunity. And obviously the CGI, the external flying scenes were CGI. But that exact plane that they used to pick her up and, blows the sushi away and fly her to the island, land on the beach, that is our, the VBJ, the Vertical Business Jet. And we've been developing it since 2012. Obviously, just as funding was available, or we've been able to earn it through our injections. I'd like to say it's the first plane powered by fillers. But we also, in the meanwhile, then realizing that time is running out. Someone else will do a better plane if we don't hurry. We need more money. And it's interesting, you can't really get money from people, really big money, if you haven't done it before. And so we thought, let's build something smaller. Let's build an eVTOL that can take two people, that somebody who's, in the market for multiple sports cars would rather buy something more exciting. And so we started this 2-seat version, which we are actually building right now. And that should be ready sort of early next year, that people can already start buying. And that we'll use to fund our project going forward for the bigger plane, the Vertical Business Jet.
Sure. It's an amazing thing to get involved in. Reza, how do you find time for all of these things?
I do find that I get bored. And I think if you are, like I say, looking after your health, you sleep enough, you eat enough, you look after your mental health, and you continuously work to improve yourself, you'll find energy and time to do things that you like and that you're passionate about.
It's a very interesting way to look at it. So in other words, if you don't have enough time, you've got the balance slightly wrong.
I almost want to say if you don't have enough time, you need to spend more time looking after yourself.
Such an interesting point. Dr. Rezamir, thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate the time. Thank you for talking to us on My Money on the Money Show. We'll take your advice at hand. We won't eat any of that, at least until Friday. Dr. Rezamir is the aesthetic doctor and someone who, as you know, has vast experience in this field. Reza, really enjoyed that. Thank you.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, named Best Cash Management Services in Africa at the 2025 EMEA Finance Treasury Services Awards.
U.S. markets looking up tonight. Wall Street jumping at the hopes of the reopening of the U.S. federal government. The Dow Jones is up 0.29%. The Nasdaq is up 1.71%. The S&P 500 is up 1.02%. Of course, following the lead of the JSE, which was up quite strongly as well for various reasons, including quite a lot of industrial action here. Well, the speculation around the Please Call Me payout, I suspect, will continue for the next couple of days. We are going to be looking at that very closely. There's a lot coming up on The Money Show tomorrow as well. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you then. Good evening. It's 8 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening. I'm Mikey Malapo. We begin in the capital. In a strange discovery, police are responding to a scene along the N1 highway in Centurion this evening, where a man has been found dead in his car with what police believe could be 1 million rands stashed inside. Police are currently combing through the scene near the N1 and N14 interchange. Preliminary findings suggest the man was shot several times with multiple gunshot wounds on his body. Jabuli Limbata has more.
While the identity of the man cannot yet be revealed, police have confirmed that he is a 46-year-old. It's believed he was traveling on his own in the vehicle. In his backseat, police found several wads of cash in a cardboard box, estimated to be at least 1 million rand. Motorists are urged to use alternative routes. Jabuli Limbata, Eyewitness News.
Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia has expressed concern over the rampant recruitment of young people into gangs. Speaking to the media after a closed session with Westbury residents in Johannesburg today, Kachalia said children as young as 13 are involved in organised crime. The Westbury community has been battling with violent crimes, with the most recent incident claiming 2 teenagers' lives. Kachalia says it's concerning that young people are being used to carry out such crimes.
The young boys are being recruited are between the ages of 13 and 19. They're supposed to be in school, they're supposed to be looking forward to a bright future, but unfortunately these communities are in a position where they feel marginalized.
The ministry is now set to engage with the Riga Park community, which is struggling with the same issue. Family members of apartheid-era victims have expressed disappointment after the Commission of Inquiry into the Truth and Reconciliation Commission stalled today. The commission investigating allegations of political interference did not proceed with testimony as planned due to a recusal application for the chief evidence leader. The NPA and the Justice Department want Advocate Ishmael Semenya to recuse himself because he has previously advised the NPA and represented it in court in TRC-related matters. The commission has postponed proceedings till later in the month to allow the parties time to prepare arguments on the recusal. But Human Settlements Minister Thembi Smelane, whose sister was murdered allegedly by apartheid police, says she's angered by this delay.
What angers me more is that the state did not discover the registration of Semenya this morning. They knew. So they could have approached the chair, they could have approached the commission, they could have filed their papers if they are not in agreement with Advocate Semenya than us coming in this shabby manner.